what are the best settings for this monitor? By best settings, I mean the settings I adopted as my test settings in the review. These are appropriate according to my own preferences, my own unit, and also the targets I go for consistency in my reviews. Individual units and preferences will vary, so don't expect these to be optimal in all cases. The first thing to consider is the preset mode. I'd recommend setting this to user for full flexibility, and it gives you a good base to work from. If you select the default preset and you make changes here, then you go into another preset, any changes you just made in that default preset will be forgotten, even when you go back to default. So this really is designed to reset the monitor to its default state in terms of the settings. I'll just quickly go through the others for those interested. Low power mode can restrict certain settings. You can set things up in the same way with the other modes, it'll use the same amount of power. It's just for energy compliance for certain certifications why they have this mode. NVIDIA eSports, that one turns on NVIDIA Pulsar, G-Sync Pulsar, and it heavily oversaturates the image by increasing game color from the default of 100 up to 160. Calibrated will change over to the sRGB color space. You can just use user and make these changes yourself. So NVIDIA Pulsar, G-Sync Pulsar in G-Sync processor. I quite like to use it myself when I'm gaming competitively. As explored in the review, I think it's a really well implemented strobe backlight setting. And if you're using this, it doesn't lock you off any other settings. You can change everything else I'm talking about at the same time, whether you've got Pulsar on or off. Overdrive, I like to set this to 150. But this is always something you'd adjust according to your own preferences. The default of 100 works well as well. 150 is not massively different, it just gives you a little bit more acceleration. Anyway, explore this a little bit more in the review. Some people may prefer higher, some lower. And if you're using Pulsar, you can't change the overdrive setting. So when I said you can change everything, it was not technically everything, but a lot of the settings that I'm going through you can change. Next, you have to set the brightness according to your preferences and lighting environment. The main brightness control is called peak white nits, and that's found in picture. I like to set this to 160. That got close to 160 nits on my unit. That's what I go for consistency in my reviews, and it suits my lighting environment and general preferences. But you can set this all the way up to 500 and all the way down to 50. If you're using Pulsar, then the minimum will be listed as 100. The brightness performance is explored in the review, but generally I found that what the peak white nits is reported as here is very close to the actual value I got with a reliable instrument. So really just set this according to your preferences and certainly do use the figures it gives you as a guide. There's also ambient adaptive brightness in the G-Sync processor setting, and what that will do if you enable it, that will adjust the brightness according to your room lighting, using that sensor at the top of the monitor there. You do get some say over the brightness levels. You can still adjust your peak white nit setting, and you can bias it more towards a brighter or a dimmer level. But ignore the exact values they give as they don't apply. So this is not hitting 160 nits. It may in some lighting environments, but it does depend on your lighting. But if you want it just generally brighter, then increase this, generally dimmer, decrease this. I found in my typical evening lighting, for example, the monitor didn't go much above 180 nits, even with this brightness slider maxed out, so peak white nits set to 500. That's with ambient adaptive brightness active. And that's all right for me, as I wouldn't want the screen that bright in the evening anyway, but some people would prefer a higher brightness ceiling than this. The dimming capability was also impressive with this setting. The minimum brightness was actually around 20 nits, which is lower than it was not using ambient adaptive brightness. Under bright daylight conditions, the monitor got closer to its maximum brightness with the feature in use and peak white nits maxed out. But unless the room was actually flooded with light, it generally stayed below 400 nits. So a bit below the 500 nits maximum the monitor is capable of. And it got down to around 40 nits minimum in those conditions. For lighting conditions between those, the monitor gave intermediate brightness levels, as you might expect. So a minimum between 20 and 40 nits, and a maximum typically around 200 to 400 nits or so, depending on lighting. Personally, I actually prefer full manual control of brightness, and the consistency and predictability that gives is important for me as a reviewer. But as far as such features go, I did think that the performance and flexibility of this setting was good. I've used various features of this sort before, and they usually give you no control over brightness. Next, there's ambient adaptive colour, which some people will like to use. And that doesn't lock off your other settings, except for your colour temperature controls and your colour channel controls. And that's because this setting will make adjustments to your white point, so your colour channels, according to your ambient lighting. You can use this at the same time as ambient adaptive brightness if you want, or you can just use it alone. And in my typical evening lighting, it acted as an effective low blue light LBL setting, dropping the colour temperature to around 4000K, or a bit below for my even dimmer and warmer late evening lighting. The image had a mild yellowish green tint to it, much milder than for some LBL settings. I found my eyes adapted to this quite readily. Under bright daylight conditions, it rose closer to 6500K, and for conditions between those extremes, it stayed somewhere between. Basically, it did a good job of approximately mirroring the color temperature of the lighting in the room with the monitor color temperature. So I did like this feature. I prefer manual control of color temperatures for reviewing purposes, but just thinking from the perspective of using the monitor as a general user, I do think this is a nice feature to have, and it's well implemented. And for both ambient adaptive brightness and color, the monitor wasn't super aggressive in how rapidly it adapted to changes in lighting, so it felt quite natural and undistracting when changes were made to the image. So to recap so far, I'm using the user mode. You can use Pulsar if you wish. I've just disabled the ambient adaptive settings, so I've got my consistent and predictable brightness at 160 nits. Anything I'm not mentioning here, like contrast, was left at the default of 50, dark boost off. I will cover that separately in a little bit. Gamma set to 2.2, so these are the defaults. As for color temperature, I set this to user, left red at 100, I dropped green down to 97 and blue down to 98. That got close to 6500K on my unit with a well-balanced green channel. Although I have to say, out of the box, it was actually quite good. And again, if you're using adaptive ambient color, these settings are going to be grayed out for you, and you don't really have to worry about what you're setting things to because your monitor is going to be adapting according to your room lighting. If you scroll down in the picture settings, there's color space, which is also important. So Panel Native will use the full gamut, and it will give you some extra saturation, some oversaturation for normal sRGB content. Most content under SDR is designed with sRGB in mind, but sRGB will be a best setting for some people. That will restrict the color gamut as explored in the review, so it's closer to the sRGB standard. So that will give you more accurate output in accordance with the intention of most content. And this won't restrict any of your other settings, by the way. You can change brightness, color channels, use the ambient adaptive settings I just mentioned as well, G-Sync Pulsar even, all at the same time as this. I do like to explore and use the full native gamut of the monitor in my reviews, so I'm going to set this to panel native, and I always explore sRGB separately. Again, it's personal preference what you set this to. So that's what I changed under SDR. I set the preset mode to user. NVIDIA Pulsar, I use that sometimes. Overdrive, applicable when you're not using Pulsar. I like to set that to 150. I did actually personally use ambient adaptive color from time to time, not when I was specifically reviewing, but just generally using the monitor. Peak white nits I set to 160, again according to your own preferences and lighting environment. Some people might like to use the ambient adaptive brightness setting as well, which will change how this particular setting responds and what brightness level it will give you. And color temp, if you're not using the ambient adaptive color setting, I like to set that to user, red to 100, green to 97, blue to 98, again according to your own preferences and your unit. And you might be wondering where the VRR control is on the monitor. How do you enable G-Sync? Well, you do this in NVIDIA Control Panel. If you're using FreeSync, then it should be the same in your AMD driver. You just enable it on the driver and then it enables it. So it's basically always on the monitor side. So you just enable it through the graphics driver. And I'm going to quickly switch over to HDR and talk about the HDR settings I'd use. So under HDR, I'm generally quite a purist when it comes to HDR, and I generally like to minimize how many settings I'm changing. It can really upset things, but I'm going to say on this monitor it doesn't really matter too much because it doesn't exactly give you incredible HDR output. It doesn't even have any local dimming. The backlight is just controlled as one unit, the same as it is under SDR. You can actually use Pulsar at the same time as HDR if you wish. You can set your overdrive. You can use ambient adaptive brightness and color. Again, you might want to do that. That's fine if you do. The preset modes act in a similar way to SDR. They'll make certain changes to the image. So again, I would just set this to user. You'll find in picture, ref white nits is grayed out, so you don't have the normal manual brightness control. And also color space is grayed out. That's handled automatically under HDR. But at the bottom of G-Sync processor, there is an HDR peak setting, which is relevant in terms of brightness under HDR. You can set that to 500 if you want the full brightness output, or 400 if you're happy to slightly minimize the brightness. It doesn't really make a huge difference. It just really is that with 500, the backlight is essentially at its maximum brightness, whereas 400 caps it a little bit. But as I said, there's no local dimming, so if you are using the 500 setting, then it's going to raise your black point and sap depth, as well as giving you brighter highlights. So my recommendation is really just to set things up how you want. Remember, I'm using the user preset as I was under SDR. I might like to use ambient adaptive color. HDR peak, I generally prefer 400 over 500 just because of the limitations I mentioned in terms of the dark depth. And I'm happy to just leave everything else at default. And if you wish to change the red, green and blue color channels, you can do so. It doesn't make a huge difference, to be completely honest. It's just the same as under SDR. It can help balance your white point and balance things a little bit better. I found that SDR and HDR were configured in a similar way on my unit, so if I really wanted to fine-tune things, I could make the same kind of changes there. That's not necessarily going to be the case on all units, but to be honest, I didn't really use HDR on this monitor beyond what I had to for testing because it's really so limited. I'd just like to quickly talk about visibility enhancement if you want a competitive edge when you're gaming. The monitor by default, at least my unit, used sRGB gamma tracking rather than linear 2.2, and I explore that in the review. Basically, this means that there's a bit of an uplift for darker shades. There wasn't actually strict sRGB gamma tracking, I should mention, so it wasn't as strong as an uplift as you might see with that, but it just gives a bit of an uplift to some shades, and it can help given the relatively low contrast of this monitor. But if you want a further boost, which I know some people will, your best bet is to use Dark Boost, which is in picture. Level 1 gives a bit of a boost, level 2 a bit more, and level 3 a bit more again. And it doesn't raise the black depth, it doesn't really upset your brightest shades, it focuses really on the darker shades other than black. So it's really quite well configured in that respect for this kind of setting. So I wouldn't hesitate to use that if you really do want to increase the visibility of some of these darker shades. And yes, you can use it at the same time as G-Sync Pulsar. You can also make this adjustment under HDR if you wish. Just be aware that what you can see in the video in this section, it doesn't represent what you see by eye. It's just to show you the relative difference you can expect using the Dark Boost setting.